Well, I think JB is booming quite a fair bit now. I think one of the catalysts that we saw last year was that Singapore actually stopped issuing data center licenses. Now, what actually has happened as a result of that was that a lot of these data centers were looking to be built in JB or in the Johor state. One of the reasons why Singapore does not want data centers anymore is because data centers actually consume a ginormous amount of electricity. Yeah, and Singapore as a city-state, as they continue to grow, they cannot supply this kind of power to these data centers. So a lot of them have moved into Johor. They are right now being built. My last count on top of my head, I think there's about 80 that's being built. And when I say data centers, these are big mega structures, right? So why is JB so attractive to host data centers? Now, one of the reasons is that if you look at the global, how the whole internet works is that we're all interconnected by countries via submarine cables. So you can think back maybe 10, 15 years when our internet was very slow. Sometimes what happens with submarine cables is that they actually get broken either by ships or by sea animals like sharks, right, biting into them. These submarine cables, they have major endpoints globally. Most of the time, they actually land on mega cities around the world. Southeast Asia region, where the main point of landing for us accessing the World Wide Web actually lands in Singapore. Singapore is the main hub where it lands. So it makes sense to build a data center in JB because it's closer, right, to the endpoint of these submarine cables rather than say KL or Penang. Yeah, just to give it an idea, if someone in Thailand is accessing the internet, how do they access the World Wide Web outside of Thailand? You'll be surprised that actually that data cuts through down to Malaysia, down to Singapore, and then it goes out to the rest of the world. So one of the reasons why JB is attractive right now is that they're attracting a lot of foreign investments. A lot of these big data centers are run by big foreign companies, Amazon, your Google, your Microsoft, and so on and so forth. JB is also developed quite a fair bit. Actually, back in 2019, I think a lot of people who live in the Klang Valley are not aware of this. They're actually extending the MRT, Singapore's MRT, all the way to JB City. The MRT is only about 4 kilometers and it's expected to go live December 2026. So of course, through the pandemic, it's taken some time. But essentially what it means is that they are going to house the immigration for Malaysia and in Singapore into one station in Malaysia. So it means it's very convenient for a person wanting to get into Singapore to hop on the MRT. I believe that travel time takes about 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes to get through the causeway into Singapore. And because it's only 4 kilometers long, the amount of volume they can generate is actually quite significant. So what they're trying to do is actually ease those traffic jams at the causeway, right, very early in the morning, because a lot of people who live in JB actually work in Singapore. Why this is significant? Because if you think about it, if I'm a wage earner, because rents in Singapore has really gone through the roof in recent years, right? Just to give you an example, if you rent a room, I'm not sure if it's ensuite in the area in Singapore, you're looking at about 1,000 Sing dollars rental a month. If you cross across the causeway in JB, that equals to about 3,500 ringgit a month. Now that's enough for you to actually buy and own your own home and actually pay for those installments. So you can see that there is a huge attraction to live in JB and actually work in Singapore, right? So I think the RTS is going to be quite significant in terms of allowing more mobility between Johor and also Singapore. I think another point why JB is actually booming right now is that our recent announcement by PMX that Singapore and Malaysia actually has jointly signed an MOU to figure out how to create a free trade zone in JB so that it will benefit both Singapore and also will benefit Malaysia. Now, what is significant of a specific free trade zone is this. A free trade zone basically means that if I have encapsulated this space, let's say a 50 square kilometer radius or 100 square kilometer radius, these space actually have different laws as compared to the rest of the country. It's a fairly smart way of spurring investments without actually having to spend a lot of money on infrastructure and to try and force people to economic activity. So really, it's a form of deregulation. And of course, as of today, the news have come out about the free trade zone. Essentially, what the Malaysian and Singapore government plans to do is to make mobility even easier. Of course, a lot of people are drawing parallels to Hong Kong and Shenzhen in the 90s. And of course, we all know what happened there. Shenzhen was a small fishing village and it's become a major city. So there's been quite a lot of interest. And this is not the first time Malaysia has attempted Malaysia-Johor collaboration. It seems both sides across the causeway actually want to make this happen. The deregulation that's going to happen in this space, I think there is going to be quite a lot of economic activity in the next 5-10 years, possibly. Of course, not forgetting our next king in Malaysia also hails from the state of Johor as well. So I think with kind of these factors that are factoring in, Johor seem to be have more potential or have quite a bit of potential in the Malaysian region.